Tonight, on A Week in League, we'll be talking LPL, LCK, LEC, LCS, Worlds 2022, seeding, dates, and locations. LCK introducing 3 new policies, TSM Huni officially steps down into a coaching position, and so much more right after the intro. Welcome to A Week in League, where we cover League of Legends esports all around the globe from all 4 major regions. I'm your host, Slomar, and let's just get right into the news. As usual, timestamps and references are in the description, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks. JDG and TES continue their win streaks in the LPL by going 2-0 this week. V5 only played 1 game this week, and they managed to win against LNG. With the current win records, JDG and TES are now officially the first 2 teams locked into playoffs. TES Wayward manages to grab another Rookie of the Week award, and his teammates Jackie Love and Mark make their way onto the Best of Week 5 list. WBG's The Shy and RNG's Gala round out the Best of Week 5 list. JDG's Kanavi is the best player for Week 7 of the LPL. RNG also went 2-0 this week, going up against BLG and EDG. And with RNG going 2-0 this week, and their gameplay getting cleaned up, it finally feels like the team's gotten over the MSI hangover, and they are ramping up just in time for playoffs. RNG is currently 4th in the standings, however, their playoff spot is not secured yet. Time for Game of the Week, and this week it's FPX versus AL. The series went all the way to 3 games and was a real fun one to watch. In Game 3, FPX picked the new Sivir in bot lane, and it looked pretty good. Enough said, watch it. Now let's take a quick look at the LPL standings. We got TES, JDG, V5, RNG, WBG, AL, EDG, LNG, TT, and FPX to round out the top 10 in the LPL. Other than the top 2, everyone I mentioned on this list still has a solid chance at making playoffs. KT, D1, DRX, and Gen G all go 2-0 last week in the LCK. With the recent KT resurgence, we now have a very close top 6 race in the LCK. DRX wins against Dom1 Kia, again, giving them a 2-0 record so far this split. There are big LCK news, but we'll be talking about these later in the show in the segment In Other News. Make sure you stick around till the end. I'm also excited to talk about Game of the Week, so let's just get right into it. This week, it's Gen G versus LSB, and the reason I picked this is Peanut picks Jungle Morgana. Yes, it's back, baby. Peanut's been having an impressive split so far. If you remember, he was one of the first ones to bring out the Poppy jungle, and now he's bringing out this Morgana. We'll have to see if this catches on though. Anyways, if you want to watch some Jungle Morg, watch this game. Now let's take a look at the LCK standings. Gen G and T1 are still in the top 2, and it honestly feels like they're a cut above the competition. More TES than T1. T1's looked a little shaky lately. And by the way, next week we get to watch T1 versus Gen G. Let me know in the comments who you think will win. DK, LSB, KT, and DRX round out the very close top 6 race that I was talking about. KDF, NS, HLE, and BRO round out the top 10. G2, Mad Lions, and Excel all go 2-0 this week. Fnatic goes 0-2, and to be honest, I'm not sure what's going on at Fnatic, but I hope they get their shit together for playoffs. Misfits also went 0-2 this week, ending their 5-game winning streak. The LEC has managed to grab an additional spot for Worlds this year. More on that in the segment In Other News. Let's talk about Game of the Week, and this week, Misfits versus XL. The game was a back and forth nail biter going all the way to 34 minutes. Anyways, go watch it. Here's a funny clip from the LEC this week that's not related to the Game of the Week, but still funny.
Says, good night, sweet prince. Are they gonna go towards Barrier? Genex? That's, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, on the he knew, oh my god, Baited and absolutely outsmarted. Holy moly.
Here are the current LEC standings. Mad and Rogue are tied for first place, XL in third, G2 and Vitality are tied for 4th, a 3-way tie in 6th between Astralis, Misfits, and Fnatic, with SK and BDS to round out the top 10. Things are still looking a bit weird in the LEC standings so far, but we'll have to see who can make it into playoffs in the upcoming weeks. EG has lost their second game this split, and it was to 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves had a great weekend going 2-0 last week. C9 and FlyQuest also managed to go 2-0 last week, and the TSM roster went 0-2 with Coach Hooney on stage this week. More on that and other news. FlyQuest's mid laner Takui is the best player for week 5 in the LCS. He also tops the player of the game standings with 4 awards under his belt. Let's talk about Game of the Week, and this week it's 100 Thieves versus EG. The game was kinda close and decided by a couple team fights, kinda worth a watch if you ask me. Let's take a look at the LEC standings. EG is still in first place, 100T in second, FlyQuest and TL are tied for third, a 2-way tie in 5th place between C9 and CLG, Golden Guardians, Immortals, and Dignitas round out the top 10. Here's a clip from the Immortals versus TSM game this week before we transition into our next segment.
It's too low for an eyeball proc, so the smite is important. TSM moving up, TSM stealing the objective, TSM finding the DPS Trundle, but they cannot complete the kill. Chime's trying to get away. The subjugate still draining him out now as Revenge is stuck in the middle of everybody. The CC! He survives with a gore drinker. He's still fighting! Revenge! Just Q3 TSM right back home! Holy moly, they bit off way more than they can chew!
Welcome to In Other News, where we discuss news that may or may not be relevant to the scene. This week's headline is, the 2022 Worlds dates, seeding, and locations have been announced. This year, Worlds will kick off with play-ins in Mexico City, and that will start on September 29th. The group stage will start on October 7th and will take place in New York. The quarterfinals will start October 20th and will also be held in New York. The semifinals will be October 29th and will be held in Atlanta, Georgia, and the finals will take place on November 5th in San Francisco, California. Worlds will host 24 teams this year, however, the LCL will be unable to send a representative. The LCL spot was granted to the team with the best international performances over the last 2 years, and that is Europe. And this means that Europe will be sending their 4th seed into the play-in stage. Now this is huge news for the LEC and Europe in general, and will definitely make for an exciting playoffs, especially now that there's an additional world spot on the line. In other news, the LCK introduces 3 new policies to the league. I want to say that there's been a mixed reaction in the community about this so far, so there are 3 new policies, and we'll have to break each one down just a little bit. The first one is the Rookie Development Clause. To summarize, players under this clause will be guaranteed playtime in either the LCK or the LCK Challenger. The second new policy is the LCK Agent Certification. The LCK Agent Certification is designed to appoint, manage, and represent both players and agents. These agents will need to pass a test administered by KESPA. The third clause is the LCK Pre-Contract Policy. And think of this as like some kind of trial-free agency where the player and the organization get to possibly transfer players over for a fee. Now, on paper, to me, this looks like a good change, but I know that's not the general consensus, and KESPA doesn't have the greatest history either, so we'll have to see how these rules impact the LCK in the coming years. In other news, the MISFITS LEC slot is reportedly being sold for $45 to $50 million. Now, there's nothing official yet, it's just some reports on Twitter, so we'll have to wait and see. I would be so hype if K-Corp can make their way from the LFL all the way up to the LEC buying this slot. Reckless did promise to be back on the LEC stage, right? We'll probably have to wait till the off-season to hear more news about this. Here's a few stories that are all somewhat related. Riot hands out refunds after the Shadow Isles Clash Cup was plagued with bugs. Hexflash is disabled in the LCK following a bug. Some players are experiencing PC-wide lag spikes that are caused by the Star Guardian event animations. Now I know, we've talked about this before, but bugs are just gonna keep on happening and we're just gonna keep covering them. Riot Games, please fix. Thank you. In other news, last week we talked about the Akali voice line changes. One of Riot Games' developers responded and said, they have not dismissed the idea of rolling back the changes, and they will be continuing to listen to community feedback over the coming weeks. Well, it happened. Riot has rolled back the changes to the Akali voice lines. In other news, Zanzarah will be making a return onto the LEC stage as the starting jungler for Misfits. This change will be effective going into week 6. And this isn't the only roster change from the LEC, however, this one's not confirmed yet. Support player Limit is reportedly joining BDS for week 6. LEC Wooloo on Twitter has reported that Febiven might be making a return to pro play in the LFL with Team Mirage. I'm excited to see Febiven back, he's been around for so long. Thooorin did a Reflections with him a while back, I'd highly recommend you go watch it. Link in description. Riot Lydia on Twitter puts Riot Games HR on blast with sexism allegations, saying a woman got in trouble with HR for posting a bikini pic on her Instagram. You can read more about this in the description. Our last story for the night isn't so much of a story, but more of a fun fact, and that is Zeri has been changed 12 times in the last 9 patches. Yeah, she's only been released this year in January. 200 years much? I want to close out the show by talking about the LDL's new format, the Fearless Draft, as we covered last week. I feel like the new format has been a success, giving us a lot of what we predicted so far with flex picks, pocket picks, and just wide champion variety in all these series. But could we see something like this in the LCS or the LEC? I would say probably not. But I would love to see something like this in one of the ERLs or maybe the Academy. Like, the Academy's already a best of 2 system. Keep it best of 2. Just put in some Fearless Draft, why not? I don't really watch a lot of ERLs, but why not put some Fearless Draft in there? I'm just desperate. I want more Fearless Draft everywhere. It's really exciting. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you go watch it. And that's the end of our show for this week. I just want to say thank you so much for the support so far, and if you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing. Tune in next week for a new episode of A Week in League, where we'll be covering League of Legends esports all around the globe from all 4 major regions. Have a good night, and good luck in solo queue.